Howdy mates, good evening. How are we doing on this Monday, July 8th, 2024? This is actually my first video for the month of July. As a matter of fact, you could say I took a little break, as it were, but it was a necessary break, as I actually had some family come up and visit me during this past 4th of July weekend. So that being the case, I hope all of you had a great 4th of July. Anywho, welcome to an example of a tallgrass prairie. We are reaching now the time of year as to when more blooms are going to frequent this particular ecosystem. And the first plant I would like to point out here is what is known as the wild bergamot. It's a fascinating plant in the fact that it has a bit of a raceme formation, and the leaves have been used for a number of different uses, which can include medicinal. For instance, the leaves have been used as a way to provide ailments for sicknesses or illnesses, such as that of colds, fevers. And for another, it does even provide respiratory ailments in addition, or cures. As we walk up just a couple of feet here, we have what is known as the purple coneflower. And it looks like some of the leaves are already starting to fade out a little bit, but they are marked for their head, which have the bit of a sharp end on each tip. As we continue on here, we may even stumble upon what is called wild indigo. Here we are. White wild indigo. Here's a closer view. Same thing. It has that raceme formation, and typically has a bit of a spire shape going on. The white wild indigo is an example of a legume, which means that they produce beans, and therefore the roots contain a rhizobium bacteria, which is essential in fixing atmospheric nitrogen. And in that process, the nitrogen goes through the roots and will therefore become a usable form of nutrient, which is often known as nitrate. Here's our gray-headed coneflower, another neat little addition in our tallgrass prairie. Now, typically, why it's called gray-headed is indeed the color of its head, hence the name. And it will typically grow as long as 3 to 4 feet in height. In that instance, that's actually close to my waistline. And I'll point out one more while I'm walking through here. I believe what I'm about to stumble upon is what is known as hoary vervain, or some species of blazing star. Yeah, that was my mistake. This is a species of blazing star. This is most likely prairie blazing star. Hoary vervain is a bit shorter in terms of height. And to be honest, this is one of my favorite types of plants out here. Now, you have to think for a moment that much of Iowa used to look like this back in the 1700s, prior to more settlement. And you have to also figure that, in a sense, a tallgrass prairie can represent a bit of a nature's pharmacy, as each particular plant can have some kind of medicinal use out of it. Now, in terms of me having the knowledge of all the medicinal values, I'm still working on it, just because it is still a field that involves continual learning. But anywho, this is an example of a restored tallgrass prairie. This was not always, I mean, let's put it this way. At one point, there was the original tallgrass prairie. And then at one point, this land was used for agriculture. But once this area was designated as part of the National Park Service, that changed. And therefore, the land here was restored to its natural ecosystem. And to be quite frank, that's how it should be. Prairies, in general, they serve as an excellent buffer in terms of flooding or of that sort. And they also provide a rich, organic topsoil that is necessary for not only the plants, but also for our livelihood. You could say that prairies are truly a jewel and don't always get the recognition that they deserve. Alright, you guys, have a good one. I know this was a bit of a longer film, but sometimes moments can be a little impromptu. Alright, have a good one.